on really quickly here. It's a pick that the WCK does not play. It was played 15 times, I think, in group stages and 0 times in playoffs. But Noel, the WCS, they love Darius, and it's gonna stack up against all those melees, and I think it's gonna pop off.
All right, here we have it. A unique draft coming out of BRU United. Big reactive bans here by Kwangdong Freaks. They need to get the win to continue this series, to get on into game number 2. Let's send it on over to Big G and TJ.
Thanks a bunch there, Degon, and I'll tell you what, a unique draft is a good way of putting it. We'll have to see what we have in store for us here.
We have a Sona? I am already over the moon. A Sona in competitive play, BRU with a 1-game advantage. Pull out a very exciting spin on their draft last game. They're still looking to the late game. They're still looking for the tools to shut down once they get to those late game 5v5s. Now those tools are utterly useless for the first half of the game because that Sona isn't doing anything.
No, it's really not.
On someone when you heal them, they gain a whole lot of HP and all of your poke matters as well. So, question here for what the Jess, are we going to see him prioritizing that poke on this Sona? Is this Sona going to be the kind of champion that is genuinely hurting in lane? Because I think you could build Sona like that. Would be very curious.
Oh yeah, absolutely, right. And here's the thing here. Kwangdong Freaks going up against BRU, moving into this game number 2. KDF, they need to pull back. They have to come back in. BRU already have that first game win.
Yeah, this is huge. BRU United, a 1-game lead in a best-of-3 series. 1 game away from upsetting Korea. 1 game away from proving that the 4th seed out of the WCS can beat the 2nd place team in Korea. That would be a major story for our dad.
And so much happening here from the get-go. We already start to see Noel moving into the mid lane against Cheru. And so a very different setting than we initially expected.
Acrobat, where I put so much of the emphasis, kind of this bottom lane being a force that can shove through the game. So far, you can already see how difficult it is for a Sona to contest that. What the Jets and Co. falling all the way back, not pressing for those waves, allowing Noth and Acrobat to run this early game.
We again start to see
Wow!
taking quite a bit of damage to start this one off.
Yeah.
But yes, the Sona.
Just getting forced back, just getting pushed back.
And then we look towards the jungle here as well. This big matchup, Zeki and Golden Feet. Golden Feet's performance on the Aurelia, commendable last game. Now on the Sinjal, slightly different. But they are able to execute slightly better.
Well, it's interesting because the Xin Zhao is going to be better in enabling his side lanes, which is what we traditionally expect Golden Feet to be doing. But it is going to mean he can't be the late game carry, was last game. If you remember from late game, he was the force that came in and won the game in the late game. Golden Feet on Xin Zhao cannot do that. He will be a tank in the late game, nothing more. So, this early game needs to be about Golden Feet getting into his side lanes, maybe fixing this bottom lane as Acrobat continues to just harass.
And harass, he does well. Just not only loses health, but also loses mana.
He's out of mana. Gotta go home.
He's gonna stick around. I can guarantee you that much, DJ.
I think he got more. I don't know if that's just the fruits down there. Very curious how that happened.
Might be the case.
First, Scuttle Crab skirmishes come out, and because his bottom lane is losing, Golden Feet can't press into that. Because if he tries to fight for the Scuttle Crab on the bottom side of the map, then his bottom lane, or the bottom lane of Acrobat and Noth, will just rotate on.
But Zaki doing a great job now, looking for the gank in the mid side, being able to tag out Noel. The barrier comes in, but a flash in, when it becomes lightning, misses out, and first blood over to KDF.
Golden Feet still pushing, leveraging the presence of what the Jest, but he can't catch him.
A little too far away. Zip going to follow up here with. You still see the ground coming through. Maru narrowly misses out on the kill on the Archony.
And that's just good old-fashioned pressure from Choir. Eating the mid lane alive. Noel forced back and back and back, and Terror finally gets him low enough that Zeki can lurk all the way around the side, get the kill, even with the hovering safety of Golden Feet. Golden Feet knew that play was coming, was waiting just out of vision to try and join in, but Zeki, Dragon's Rage, kicks Noel out from behind the turret, guarantees the kill.
Unfortunately for BRU, once again, we start to see a rough start for them, but exactly what we were hoping from Kwangdong Freaks. This team that needed an early game advantage has started to find one.
It's Zeki again, finding those early game leads for his team. That's what you have Zeki on your team for. That's why he's one of the best junglers in the world.
And his impact is going to help Kwangdong Freaks get to a point where they are able to find these fights well.
Well, you would hope so.
Absolutely. I have firm belief now in Zeki.
Is this an official prediction from Grand and Gamer this MO?
Do I think they win the game?
Yes.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay. Because it does come down to those team fights, and during game number 1, KDF had a similar advantage.
I will say, it gets them to the team fight.
BRU took him apart. Archony really hurting here. Recently, Wukong was buffed slightly.
The Stone Skin passive, honestly, doing so much work here.
Wow.
Archony, in fact, losing health very rapidly. Pops the ultimate. Pops the flash.
It's really interesting that they're putting BRU in this matchup versus Archony, that Archony's opted into it. I understand why maybe it makes sense on paper to do that, swap Noel and Archony changing their positions on the map here. But it does mean that Mario, one of the best top laners in the world, is getting to operate against Archony. Noel, one of the best top laners in the world, is stuck in the mid lane where they're not feeling so comfortable on Darius.
First one coming up here in the game. BRU are going to reset, come back in. We start to see a brush set up here for Golden Feet. As well as Noel, they managed to spot out Cheru walking by into the mid side. Triple V looking to try and intercept, flashing in with the upper hand. They jump in over on the Cheru. The Diana going to go down. And what the Jess manages to finish off with the damage, but a huge moonfall comes across. And Golden Feet, the next targeted response out from KDF, even with the Crescent Strike, will not be able to live.
That's a positive trade. Golden Feet goes down, and he's not going to be able to contest this dragon.
But Noel, once again, with the pull, but it's too aggressive. The crescendo will not save him. Triple V in the mid lane, too far away.
You have to back away. If you don't have the smite, there's no way you can contest for the fight. So KDF have full control. They run that area of the map. You back away, you go for Rift Herald. Instead, oh dear.
Dragon going down, and Archony going down with it. KDF 4-1 on the board.
BRU keep walking in. You take the trade there. If they turn for the Rift Herald, they're well set up for a late game that they're so strong in. Instead, they take the fight and over an Ocean Dragon, and this gets worse and worse than the one-for-one trade they initially started with.
They managed to find a massive moonfall then, that response initially, and then you have the final chapter, the lockdown of the Golden Feet.
And here you go. Okay, Golden Feet's dead. That sucks. We're going to go take the Rift Herald, be able to burn it relatively quickly. And instead, they kind of one by one walk into the Dragon Pit. Noel leading off, Golden Feet already dead, so there's no other tank on the team, which means when Archony decides to contest it on Singed, it's just very weird. Maybe a little bit of Game 1 overconfidence coming to BRU.
The confidence from Game 1 spilling over into Game 2.
Yeah.
Exactly. As Rift Herald started here by KDF. Likely going to pick up both objectives that start up the game.
Which is a massive advantage for them, obviously. They're going to have the gold from those objectives, but also the Rift Herald kind of books them free control of the map. I want to see them drop that into... I suppose they could go for the raw gold here. I'd actually like it in the mid lane, because the big thing they want to do right now, okay.
Interesting spawn here from Archony, but a little bit discoordinated
Yeah.
as they flash in with a crescendo from Jess. Cheru gets picked off, and the whip becomes a slight thing to snipe away Zeki.
Acrobat and Maru will be able to farm away this bottom turret. They will get a break, but that was a very weird take from Zeki and Chera. They did not have vision on the top side. I didn't think they were going to engage because they had no idea where BRU were on the map.
Right.
And instead they take the fight and lose because of it. Lose because they don't know there are 3 players on the top side.
A turret is a turret.
Turret's a turret,
They
that's
got
true.
one on the bot side, but 2 kills going down for it. Not the best spot for KDF.
It does mean a slight reduction in the gold lead. BRU get a little bit from those 3 kills, even over the first turret break. KDF do still have the Rift Herald in their pockets, so they will be able to take at least one more. Now, here's where I was going before that fight started. Because they're starting to take turrets, what KDF now need to do is what they didn't do last game. They need to manage these waves and make it very difficult for BRU to farm. They need to make sure that BRU are struggling to get gold on the map. Because if this Sona keeps scaling, this Corki keeps scaling, if this Singed keeps scaling, they're going to be scarier in the late game. Almost unkillable in the case of a Darius and a Sona on the same team. So, keep the gold away from them. Make sure the Singe doesn't get damage. Keep the pressure on.
In any ideal scenario, you would want that. Keep the gold away from the opponents.
Thanks, Grant.
I'm just paraphrasing what you said, TJ. Look, I'm learning stuff from you. I'm just parroting what you said. Unfortunately for KDF, BRU will not take that easily. They are going to still stick pretty close in gold now. Just barely, not even 2,000 gold behind. Just a little under 2,000.
Really good turn from BRU off that top fight. And And that gave them a lot of gold back over, and it gave them a lot of gold back over onto the people that you most want to have gold. I think Archony getting a ton of gold is important, but VVV leading the team right now. That right there is an esports package.
Yes. The jersey included.
Of course, the timer on the package is just expiring, so we throw it down in the mid lane. It'll clear wave. I think it's still around as the wave gets there.
Archony popping his ultimate as members of KDF start moving away to the top side. You still see Golden Feet in the flanks waiting. But the turret will go down to the combined efforts of KDF.
Trade here, mid lane turret pressure in exchange for top lane turret pressure, but of course Maru is there defending the mid turret. He clears wave. Noel might get a turret down bottom. KDF leading in the gold for now, though.
Still a Wolfrock exchange here for Noel, but Maru quickly on his tail. You do see the Honey Fruits up, and so Ignite out from Maru would not amount to too much.
Yeah, Maru's scared of this fight, rightly. Darius very scary in the 1v1, which makes me just kind of question the decision to put Archony against Maru in lane, which does seem to have led to a very big monkey.
Might have been trying to anticipate something else. Maybe Maru goes into the mid lane.
Sure. Rift Herald summoned here, a little out of position just because the timer was running out. It'll wander slowly into the mid lane. And I think this is actually a pretty big misplay because BRU can't do anything, or BRU should be able to stop it, and KDF can't do anything to enable it. Yeah, goodbye, Shelly.
It's a very interesting spot here by BRU. You start to see now they are getting a little bit impatient. KDF are also responding in turn. KDF with good macro. But surprisingly, being caught out of position and BRU clawing back in gold somehow.
Zaki, a little out of position. Noel hunting
in the back of the pit, but the bigger one you have to watch out for is Cheru caught out. The crescendo used though. Yepper head pulls back. Noel is standing in the face of KDF in the first execute, looking for the second. It does not reset, but still BRU hunt them down, and now Maru bringing off on the great escape by BRU with 3 pickups.
And immediately, because Zeki's out of position, BRU know they can take the fight, and they go. The second they spot the opportunity, it's Archony starting things off with a big push into the middle of the enemy team. They're going to get a Drake for it. Look at Archony. Protobelt dive in. He draws so much fire, immediately pulls out an easy kill, and then Noel steps forward to be the front line to sweep things up. The damage amplification from what the Jets, a quiet factor in all of those kills.
And I love the dynamic between the crescendo and the final chapter, where you just have that instantaneous, quick stun on the crescendo, while the final chapter needs a few more moments to stack up. You now start to see BRU ramping up, and we've touted KDF's amazing team fight powers. Well, it doesn't matter if they can't get a team fight, they can fight for it.
Yeah, again, KDF losing their lead around a dragon fight. As they step into that dragon, they're out of position. Zeki's in the pit without a clean way to get out of it. The rest of the team is wandering through a choke point. It's mispositioning from KDF against a team like BRU that is going to force them. And now for the second time this series, BRU have a gold lead.
I think the last game, BRU actually got the gold lead swung back in their favor a couple of times.
For like the third time this series.
And so it's so interesting to see how these two teams are in such a tight race here. KDF not willing to go down without a fight, and they've had 2 early game leads to start off their matches.
Well, they need to find it again. It needs to be a great team fight
And
from Acrobat.
With Archony, but instead it's Archony that pulls them back in. Cheru comes in with a moonfall, but already his damage deal is gone. Acrobat dead, and Cheru chased after a double for Triple V.
Acrobat dashing into range of Archony, who just grounds him, just drops the ground, makes sure he can't dash away. And the second he caught Relentless Pursuit away, he is an easy target, an easy kill. Acrobat's dead, and so are the KDF hopes of a team fight. BRU turn immediately onto this Baron.
And a strong pickup here from Archony. Playing for the Singed in the top side. A little interesting, seeing how they've moved the roles around a little bit. But still coming in here, getting the pickoffs onto Acrobat, being able to displace their opponents even through the exhaust from Acrobat, was still able to get to that AD carry.
Yeah, really good use, very useful in those specific matchups, into Lucian, into Lee Sin, into the Wukong, which actually, I think I've solved it. The ground is for the Wukong. Right. And as it slowed everything down, that makes sense. Archony was just able to find the pick in the team fight. What didn't work in lane works brilliant when you have other sources of damage. When Archony grounds Acrobat, even with a Yumi on him, even with Noth trying to heal him, it just doesn't matter. There's so much damage from the rest of BRU who are pixel perfect with their target calling. And now, Baron in hand, they're looking for a game end granted, a series end granted.
A calling used earlier to clear the way, but BRU is marching in closer again, looking for that opportunity to pull someone in. The mid-side inhibitor goes down, the first of this fight, as Noel finds his first pick off as well. And things are done here for KDF as BRU dive them on the turret. A massive crescendo on the 3, pulled back once again. Noel, a massive force. The whole BRU show the power of the WCS as they take down KDF 2-0.
What a win for the Thai team! The first time that Thailand has had a team on the international stage, and my, do they deliver. Showing up here at Icons and getting a win over the most feared region, coming in for many of these Western teams, for many of these teams in Asia. They're talking about, oh yeah, the WRL.